Hello everyone, this is the Bon Jovi Talk podcast. I'm going to give an immediate reaction to Thank You Goodnight, the Bon Jovi story. Just finished all 4 episodes, probably finished them about 15-20 minutes ago. And I thought I'd give a little review just kind of straight after I've watched it. Because obviously, while it's still raw, you kind of want to speak about it. So yeah, I thought it was brilliant. Everything that I thought it would be, it was. So there was things that I knew I wanted more of. There was things that I knew I wanted less of. There was things that I didn't expect to see or hear. There was things that I didn't know, and plenty of things that we did know. So yeah, after the first episode, really loved it. Obviously, it was predominantly about the 80s and obviously John's vocal struggles, which kind of confused me a little bit because I probably just wanted the 80s, 90s, and so on for each episode. I didn't really want it, 80s and then presents and then 90 and then presents and so on. But that's just me. I kind of like stuff in like chronological order anyway, which it was. It just kind of kept jumping to the presents. But yeah, I thought it was very good. As I said, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10 on first watch. There was the 2 episodes that I really wanted to watch with the third and fourth. Third being because it was about Richie. Well, that's how it was, looked like on the contents and stuff. And then the fourth one because it was kind of about now and what's gone on in the last few years. So, at the 80s and 90s, we all kind of think we know about, and obviously there was a lot there that I hadn't seen, even in the 80s and the 90s stuff. But obviously, Richie's departure and since then, a lot of stuff's been quite private. The interviews are quite vague and stuff like that. So it was nice to see Richie on it. It was nice to get some info. I not loved. I was very very interested, and it made me kind of sit up like I am now. For the part where he mentioned Shanks being one of the reasons he left. We all knew it. Let's be honest. Deep down, we all knew it. Obviously, John's never said it. Richie's never said it, but we all knew that was one of the reasons that he'd had enough. He was getting pushed out. John mentions on there Richie was late one time. Whether that's true or not, that's just what John said. He was late one time for like the pre-production stage of the album. Um, Came in and Shanks had done the chords for the fighter, and Richie wasn't happy. And I don't think he'd made it clear at that point, but I think down the line he realised that was one of the reasons. Richie kind of come across in there that he was one of them where he was honest and stuff like that, but then it kind of flipped to that part where he, I would speak up, but then it kind of got to that part and it seemed like at that stage he'd either one give up or two he was lying and didn't really speak up. So who knows? But I thought it was interesting that part really got me engaged in terms of I just wanted to know a little bit more about that. I think they said that they'd pretty much done the album without Richie, and Richie said when he did listen to it, that's not Bon Jovi. And a lot of people think that What About Now for me is probably the weakest album of the band, along with 2020 in all honesty. No, What About Now is just the first album that never got me as a fan. And to come straight after The Circle, I think was hard for me to kind of listen to it, and I'm glad Richie's kind of said that album's just not Bon Jovi. Don't get me wrong, there's one or two songs on there that could have been, but I think Richie hit the nail on the head there. That album didn't sound like Bon Jovi to me. So yeah, that was interesting. The vocal issues, geez, like some of that was hard to watch, and I'm the first one to say I've been the most critical of his voice over the last, God knows, 8 to 10 years maybe. But that documentary proved that what I've said all along was right. John said it. For the last 10 years, he hasn't been 2014 onwards. He hasn't been the front man or the singer that he's wanted to be. He knows he's capable of more. Just this wasn't working, and there's no harm in admitting that. In all honesty, I wish he admitted it earlier on because I'd have got a lot less stick off people. But it just summed it up there, and I hope people who have watched it, those who were giving me stick for giving John stick. I kind of hope that's made them realise, and go, do you know what, even he's missing it here, because I've never done it where I've wanted to criticise. I've just, when I've watched videos and I've seen them live, I've gone, his voice is weaker, or his voice is awful, and it was 2022. You only have to look at the rehearsals and the stuff like that there. He was awful, and he knows it. And one thing I will do is credit the man in terms of, don't get me wrong, I still don't think he should have went on the 2022 tour knowing he wasn't capable of doing it. 2019 he could maybe have got away with. 2022 he definitely couldn't have. And for him to go out and still take people's money, even if it was for 15 shows, whether it was to prove a point to himself, which is fine, don't get me wrong, but he'd done 3 weeks of rehearsals as well. He obviously sung in the studio, he's obviously sung at home. He knows he couldn't, he knows he was nowhere near the level he should have been. 2018, 2019 he wasn't, so let alone 2022. But what I do have to give him credit for is he still really worked hard to try and get this back, his vocals back, because, you see him with the laser, you see him with the sprays, you see him with the vocal warm-ups, you see him with the vocal like Zoom calls, the vocal techniques, and you can see that he was hurting, and it was sad to see. No matter how much I've slated him, no matter how much I'll badmouth and say he shouldn't have went on tour, that's still hard to see, because it's my favourite singer of my favourite band struggling. There's a scene where he drops to the floor and pretty much says he feels like he can't even move his arms and legs, let alone sing, because of it. He feels just absolutely knackered, and I'm sure COVID, he had COVID once or twice. I'm sure that didn't help around that time. But you know what, he shouldn't have gone on tour. But we've got to see some amazing footage that we wouldn't have never seen before. So I think it was a very, very good documentary. I think Gotham done an unbelievable job with it all. I really do. He absolutely smashed it. I think the editing's great. I think the interviews with the others, obviously, I'm a fan of Bon Jovi, not John Bon Jovi. I'm a fan of John Bon Jovi, but I love the band first and foremost. So I'd have liked more from all of them: Tico, Dave, Hugh, Phil, Shanks to an extent, Everett. Everett's only come on in the last part, but I'd have liked a little bit more from him. Richie, I'd have definitely liked more of. I think his was cut short on purpose, but I'd have liked a little bit more. It was nice to see Richie apologise. I've never, I wouldn't say forgiven him, but I've never kind of agreed with how he left, and he said sorry for doing it there. And I think how he did do it was wrong, no matter what the circumstances were. I still think he won. Should have gave the band more notice, or said to them, listen, for a month, please just get someone. I'm not up to it. Please get someone to fill in, get Phil again. I know I've done it before. Just give me a month. If I'm not great after a month or so, then whatever. But just to kind of drop the art, but it just wasn't nice. But we've been around that a million times. I wish they'd done a little bit more on the 90s. I really do, because the 90s is my favourite era, from Young Guns and Stranger in This Town, To Keep the Faith, Crossroads, These Days, Destination Anywhere, Undiscovered Souls. The whole 90s era for me was brilliant. In all honesty, I know I've just said I'm a Bon Jovi fan first of all. Even the acting stuff, that interested me, that got played. I'd have liked a little bit more there. And I actually really like Doc being on it as well. Again, I'd probably like more from him, but it's just one of them. Sometimes I was going, this scene might be dragging on a bit, and then other times I'm going, why is that episode? That episode shouldn't have finished there. So I still think you could have got so much more in that documentary. But obviously it's got to appeal to people who are fans as well, so it can't be too long, I suppose. But honestly, if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you do. I want people talking about it. I want to know everyone's reactions, whether they thought it was rubbish, whether they thought it was all about John, whether they think John's lying or Richie's lying, or whatever topic is. I still want to hear it, because do you know another thing? I really wish they went on about why Bobby left the band as well. I think that would have been an interesting part, and I know he's not an official member, and they probably feel like they don't need to cover it, but I think it would have been nice to you know, they were mentioning how he kind of saved the show one night, which he did. Then, you know, a couple of minutes later, he's out the picture. And I'd have liked a little bit more on that, but as I said, you can't cover everything. It's just one of them. But I highly recommend watching it. As I said, first watch probably an 8 out of 10. Over the next couple of weeks, I'll probably watch an episode while I'm on a treadmill or something, and then give it a day or two, and then watch another episode and try and, you know, take it all in, because I kind of just went from episode to episode there. I didn't leave the bed for 5 hours. So but yeah, I'm made up we've got a documentary. I'm made up it's 10 times better than When We Were Beautiful. Um, sorry to go back to it, but the really big part for me as well was obviously, um, John also mentioned how we shouldn't have brought the band back straight away for What About Now, which I don't think we've ever heard him say before. I could be wrong, but I don't think we have. And to compare it to the 80s, and he said, you know, I brought them back. You know, we killed ourselves there to bring it back again. Um, yeah, I think that's the first time we've ever heard John speak about that, and it's true. You know, Tico said it before, he didn't want to go back, and obviously they done a lot of work without Richie, and it probably was a money making thing at the time. John probably just struck while the iron was hot, and unfortunately it didn't really, it paid off in terms of number one gross on tour, which he mentioned in there, but I don't, you know, for the band itself, I don't think it worked, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm made up. We've got the documentary. I hope everyone else is made up. You've got it. I'm gonna do obviously longer podcasts with guests. I'm not gonna talk about my opinion on it until I'm with guests doing the podcast. A few people I want to speak to on it. A few people I've tried to get on. Obviously, the organisation don't want them on this podcast, and that's fine. Um, so if anyone does want to come on and speak about it, if you've watched it, if you agree with stuff, if you don't agree with stuff, and so on and so forth, let's talk about it. It'd be interesting to see. But I highly recommend people watching it. Share it to your friends. Let's see, you know, that might change their opinion on Bon Jovi. It was nice to hear, you know, like Wild is the Wind stuff and Life is Beautiful and things like that actually get played, and not just Pray a Bad Name all the time. So there was loads that I really liked about it. A couple of things I disliked about it, but I'm never gonna love everything, and everyone knows that. Um, but as a whole, covered the 80s, fantastic. A little bit more on the 90s would have been nice. A little bit more still on Richie, I think would have been nice. Um, I still think there's loads that they're not telling us. I really do. I don't think it actually told us any more than we already knew, apart from maybe the Shanks stuff, and the vocal stuff. You know, the Nashville show and watching them rehearse, and the lasers and the sprays and stuff like that. And post surgery, I'd love more on the post surgery, in all honesty. But again, it's not the John Bon Jovi show, so I'd have probably got me a bit off if I don't know. I just think there's certain things that are interesting and that interest me as vocals, and I think we would have been nice to have a little bit more on that, because once the surgery happened, it kind of went to like 2 weeks after. Then I think it jumped to like a couple of months, and then 9 months, and it just didn't really. I'd have liked a little bit more on it, but as I said, you could go on forever and ever. But yeah, guys, give it a watch. I hope everyone enjoyed it. There's going to be people that won't, but so be it. And there's going to be people that over the top love it, and so be it. Everyone's got an opinion. So yeah, let me know what you think. Comments below. You know, speak to me on Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it now. And if you want to be a guest on the podcast and talk about it, let's try and book a date in, because the amount of people that have said, oh yeah, let's do one, and I've never got back to them, that's my problem. So if you want to book some in, let's do it. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share the word about this podcast as well. And looking forward to have some guests on again soon. Thanks everyone.